Okay, hi guys, welcome. I'm going to go through and walk through the heart with you real quick. Um, you can probably find some good YouTube videos on the heart, but this is the human heart. And I'm going to turn it as if it's looking, this person is looking kind of away from you. And now let me turn it around towards us. And so if that person is facing us, then this over here is the top chamber. Each chamber on the top is called an atrium. This would be the right atrium because it's facing us. So if I spin it around like this, then that person is looking away from us. Now you'll notice the blue blood vessels that are delivering blood to the heart. These are coming into the right atrium, bringing deoxygenated blood to the right atrium. It's the first chamber of the heart. Now, there are two major blood vessels, and I'm highlighting them right now. This one down here is underneath, it's the lower one, so it's called the inferior vena cava. Now, up on the top, I'm looking down on it now, this is the superior vena cava. So those are the two large veins that drain the upper and lower portions of the body into the right atrium of the heart. Now on the left side, this is the left atrium. Right atrium, left atrium. Notice they're on the top. Okay, now the chambers on the bottom are called the ventricles. Now I'm going to highlight the right atrium again, and I'm going to turn it around this way so that you can see that it's sitting right above another chamber on the right side. That chamber, which I've highlighted the inside wall of, that is called the right ventricle. Okay, so when blood leaves the right atrium up here, it enters through this valve, which is called the tricuspid valve, into the left ventricle. Okay, now I'm going to hit this so that you can see the names of the tricuspid valve. So I'm going to open this up so that you can see that. It may be kind of hard for you to read, but that is this. Because, well, let me show you this real quick. I'm going to cut away, I'm going to remove the right atrium for a moment so that you can see that valve in the middle right here. Okay, oh, I just cut it out. Okay, let me take that back. Didn't mean to cut it out. Okay, so let me highlight it. Well, right now I'm only highlighting the individual flaps of the tricuspid valve, but you'll notice it has 1, 2, 3 major flaps. That's why it's called a tricuspid instead of a bicuspid valve. So that's the tricuspid valve, and if I flip it down like this, you can see down below, you can see it's got these little things called chordae tendineae, which are those are like the parachute cords, so that when this ventricle contracts and squeezes down, the blood will attempt to flow back through these valves. But what will happen is those little flaps, because of the blood pressure, will close, and the chordae tendineae are what will keep them from flipping through the other way. So that'll keep the blood from flowing backwards. Now, inside the right atrium, you have this little blue thing. If you look up here, kind of close up here, let's see if I can zoom in on it a little bit. That right there is something called the sinoatrial node. Now, these are nerves, and these little loops that you see attached to it, those surround the muscle tissue, and those cause the atrium, the right atrium, to compress and contract and push the blood down into the left ventricle. Now, when the left ventricle closes and contracts, the blood is going to try to flow backwards, but it can't. So it goes up through this area. That right there is called the conus arteriosus. You don't have to know that, but that is the blood vessel that kind of leads up through another tricuspid valve, but it has a special name here. Because it's going to the lungs, this is called the pulmonary valve. So these 3 leaflets make up the cusps of the pulmonary valve. Okay, so when the blood leaves the left atrium. When the left atrium contracts, it pushes it through the pulmonary valve up through this pulmonary trunk, which leads to these little arteries that are called the pulmonary arteries. Okay, this happens to be the left one. Remember, the heart is facing us right now. That's the left one going to the left lung. This one over here is the right one going to the right lung. So those are pulmonary arteries. Remember, arteries carry blood away from the heart. So the blood goes to the lungs, it gets oxygenated, and then it comes back to the heart into the other atrium, which is shown right here at the top. The right one has disappeared, I've taken it away, and then this is the left atrium. Notice those little blood vessels coming back in? These would be the pulmonary veins. Okay, this one comes back from the right lung. These two over here, if I can highlight them, having trouble highlighting them. There we go. Those two pulmonary veins come back to the left atrium from the left lung. Okay? So the left atrium is here, and then it's going to pump blood down into the left ventricle. Now let me show you what the left ventricle looks like, but let me cut this away. Okay, so when the left atrium squeezes, notice, here's the valve, and notice if you look at the name, this is called the mitral valve. Ooh, I cut it out. Let me put it back. Okay, take away the knife there. Okay, so this is called the bicuspid valve, also known as the mitral valve. Okay, the mitral valve is what keeps the blood from flowing back up into the left ventricle and out into the lungs, because there's no valve between the lungs as the blood flows into the left atrium. If I said ventricle, I meant atrium. When the left ventricle, the lower chamber, we're looking down through this valve into, when it squeezes, these valves are going to shut down because those chordae tendineae, well, let's see if I can highlight them. The chordae tendineae right there are going to cause these flaps to close like a parachute. Like a parachute opens, but they are going to open against one another, so they seal one another off, and that keeps the blood from flowing back up into, well, that's not, just forget what I just highlighted. I didn't mean to highlight that. Back up into the left atrium and back into the lungs. That would be a problem. So let me flip this around. So blood is traveling down the left, from the left atrium to the left ventricle. Now this is just showing the surface, so let me cut the surface off and see if the ventricle, oh, okay, so the left ventricle just disappeared. So let me try to return this back to totally to normal. Okay, back to the original look. Now here is the, oh shoot, I'm still cutting things. Sorry about that. So this right here is highlighting the interior of the left ventricle. Okay, so that muscular wall you see right here is on the outside of the left ventricle. Okay, so the blood is in the left ventricle. It's got oxygen because it just came from the lungs. Now when the left ventricle pumps, it's going to pump up through this valve right here, which is called the aortic valve. Notice it has three cusps, so it's a tricuspid valve. They call it a semilunar, but let me see, maybe, let's not worry about that. Let's just call it the aortic valve because it takes blood up through this big blood vessel. Let me move this back a little bit. Through this giant blood vessel right here, and that is called the aorta. Well, right here it's called the aorta. That's the base of the aorta, and then it's got this arch which branches off. These little branches go to, well, it doesn't show the branches highlighted, but those three branches you see at the top go up to the head and the upper extremities, and then this trunk curves around, and that takes stuff down to the rest of the body. So let me slowly surround this with tissues. Okay, so now we've got the heart surrounded with some of the circulatory system. You can see the ones going out to the ribs. Let's see what else we can put around it. Okay, so we've got the lung, the air passages, go another layer. We've got the nerves, one more layer out. Okay, that looks like we've got, oh, okay, this, which is the pericardium, which covers and protects the heart. Okay, so that right there, let's see if I can go out further. Yeah, I can keep going out. Okay, so there's the lungs on top of it, and then the rib cage over it, the muscles, some more muscles, some more muscles, more muscles, and so on. And pretty soon, you know, you've got the chest region. Okay, so there you have it. The heart's in there. Oh, it even has a mammary gland. So the heart is up in here in the blue right there. Okay, all right. So that's it for the chambers, the valves, the blood vessels associated with the heart. Okay, so hopefully that'll help you.